Views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in the podcast belong solely to the hosts and not the host's past, present, or future employers. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's Brian, Mr. Betcher, and Miss Berlin for Breaking Down Security.
Hello.
Yeah. So we're happy Valentine's Day to everybody. Of course, you're going to hear this a few days after this, but yeah.
If you're hearing it now and you've forgotten, too late.
Yeah. If you're
Start planning for next year.
Yeah, there you go.
Right.
Yeah.
Just,
wait a year and listen to us then. Yeah.
I think you could probably buy and schedule flowers now for next year.
Oh yeah.
I kind of wonder if they let you do it that far out. You're like, crap, I forgot. Well, but then that's kind of, feel like that's expected.
Wishful thinking.
Yeah, right.
So
saying that we'll still be together next year.
It's amazing what you forget sometimes. I accidentally forgot my wife's birthday one year, and I've also forgotten my mother's on occasion. And now I have like notifications a month in advance, 2 weeks in advance, and a week in advance saying, hey, your wife's birthday is coming up. Hey, your wife's birthday. Hey, dumbass, go get yourself a gift because you're going to fuck up again. And I do the same thing with my mother. Actually, I have a thing now. It's like, hey, mom's birthday is a week away. Maybe you want to, schedule some time or something.
It is so much easier now with like recurring calendar reminders that you can do.
It's just one of those little things that makes you so much less, in a hurting place eventually. Being reminded, and yeah, it's definitely worth it to have those things set up. So, so I'm digging out of snow. How about you, Mr. Betcher?
Well, it's about, 18 degrees here, and it's going to get to 4. So that's colder than it's ever been, probably since 1950.
Now 18 is not Celsius for those of you non-US Americans. That's 18 degrees Fahrenheit, which is like -8 Celsius, and 4 Fahrenheit is close to like -10 Celsius. So it's very, very much cold here, and for a place like Austin that that's crazy. That's
close to the equator.
Yeah,
it's much closer to the equator than I am, and yeah.
Right.
I was feeling really bad that it was, 22, which is like -5 here in Seattle, but we got about a foot of snow, I think, out my house, but about a third of a meter, 3 feet is a meter. Yeah. About a third of a meter here. So, I'm trying to remember my metrics and everything. So, but Miss Berlin's sitting on one of the major, Great Lakes. How's that lake affect snow?
I'm not on the lake effect snow side.
Oh,
that's more like Buffalo and like all the places on the east side of the lake.
Okay.
I'm right on the west, like southwest side. So I don't know. I was at a foot at one point, but we're supposed to get another 8 inches this week.
Goodness.
And I mean, it's fine. Whatever.
Yeah. See, winter for Seattle is pretty much like 2 weeks in February where we get all of our snow. The most notable snowstorms for us end up in February. We had one two years ago that dropped, a fair bit of snow on us, and it's not the snow, it's the ice as well. Cause the snow will come in and then the ice gets on top of it and then it just takes forever to melt. But
I'm surprisingly not sore after sledding with my children for a couple hours yesterday. I posted a really good wipeout on Twitter. So
nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
All that.
It's interesting because, you get out there and you start shoveling snow and you start using muscles that, I think I'm in fairly decent shape because, I do push-ups, sit-ups. I do some calisthenics here from time to time. Then I get out there and I'm like, oh, that's a muscle I haven't used yet. Oh, my tenderloins are all, and They're tenderloins. They're like right back.
I know, it's still funny.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The lower back, hoofing that wet snow it gets painful. So, I know everybody's like, oh, you should come up to, really cold, Canada. Yeah. Come up to Nunavut or whatever and, enjoy negative 85 degrees, Fahrenheit or whatever. And I was like, yeah, okay, yeah. I get it. Okay. Yes. You can't hold a candle to your winter jock strap is much more powerful and full than ours. So, but yeah. Anyway, so before we get started, I mentioned it last week, which is actually, I posted that show today, but I'd like to thank Lauren, Little Lost on Twitter again for helping us out with one of our speaking engagements. She was an ambassador for the InfoSec Education Foundation for one of the CTFs that Point 3 Security was doing for women of security. And she gave a great 15-minute discussion on volunteerism and organizations that could benefit from, taking volunteers. So I'd like to just thank her again real quick. She did us a heavy. I felt like I, as a white dude, should not be speaking at a women's event about things dealing with security. So I reached out and I said, hey, would you do this for us? And she said, thank you. I would love to do that. And I was like, cool. So I appreciate her doing that. I'm sending her some swag as soon as the winter is over, the BreakSec swag will be on its way. So.
You mean you weren't on an all male panel about women in InfoSec?
I went to a conference that was exactly like that. And not only that, it was 4 white dudes talking about how women could get into InfoSec. And I turned and looked at everybody at the panel. I was like, we should be better than this. What the hell are we doing here? So I felt bad because I actually didn't know who was on the panel at the time. And it was kind of an impromptu thing, but, all right. One other thing, Ms. Berlin's company is actually hiring. We put this at the end of the show, but I'm moving the agenda. I'm making an executive decision. So you need a security evangelist.
Yeah. Which I hate that word so much. We were originally going to try and spread the evangelism throughout our department.
Okay.
But then realized we need somebody dedicated to it that is way more polished than I am. And will like to play around in the lab and do cool tech stuff for 20%, and the other 80% gets to talk about all the cool things we're doing.
Okay, so some technical ability, but some snake oil salesman. Oh, sorry, not snake oil salesman. Shit.
No snake oil.
No snake oil. Tell people the real skinny. The real skinny.
Like what we're actually doing, and can speak to it intelligently and not like me fumbling over words all the time.
Right. Okay. Well,
I say that for the podcast.
it takes some effort to be able to be articulate and to be able to speak as people hear me week in, week out. I am not articulate in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, it does take some doing to be an evangelist. I think we have Nathan Iverson. Was it Iverson from Illumio? I asked him what a security evangelist was. It was like the head cheerleader of the organization. And, but yeah, it does take some real belief there or, whatever. So
yeah.
Cool. Mr. Betcher's the security evangelist for LogMD, I think, right? He's got his little pom-poms with, fight song. LogMD.
I'm just the guy in the back room trying to get it done.
Us too. And it's hard to be a frontline cheerleader when you're like, crap, I have to get all this stuff done too.
I got deadlines. Damn it. Yeah. Anyway, so we have some other people coming up in the coming weeks, some more interviews with awesome people in our industry. As a matter of fact, by the time most of you hear this, I will be starting a new job tomorrow, and I'm freaking out a little bit. I'm not going to tell people where I work, just like I did for the first 3 or 4 years of the podcast when I used to work at that EDR place. But it's going to be a fairly big deal, and there's a lot of lot of very important things going on, and I'll be
deep cover 3-letter organization.
It's not a 3-letter organization. It's not one of those 3-letter organizations, but it's going to be in a security space that definitely needs is definitely going to be challenging and exciting. So I'm looking forward to that. So yeah, bear with us. I one of the things I did tell that company when I hired with them was deal breakers where I have to continue doing the podcast. I have to continue doing the nonprofit, the conference, the local CSEC meetup that we do. Those are deal breakers. And if I can't do those, I'm going to walk. And they were like, okay, cool. Let me go talk to lawyers. And I was like, okay. And they did. And they said, yep, it's fine. Whatever you bring with you is fine. Thank you for telling us. Don't try to do shit, and be mavericky and fly by night and all that stuff. And so I was on the up and up with them, and they're going to let me continue doing everything as expected. So there will be no change or issues there. So, all right. So on to our discussion this week. It says here, an employee of the company Yandex was caught selling access to user email inboxes. That's creepy. That's super creepy.
Yeah.
Now, Yandex, for those of you who don't know, is a Russian, Dutch domiciled search engine, ride-hailing, and email service provider. They disclosed on Friday, the 12th of February, 4,800 email accounts were compromised. All
I really know about Yandex is they have really good reverse image search sometimes.
Yeah, I do. When we did the class with Joe, Yandex was one of the ones that they did. Yep. Company says security breach was identified during a routine audit of its systems by its security team. Well, that's kind of cool. That means that they have third-party independent audits by their security team, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. And obviously this person thought that they could get away with it. It's a shame it took 4,800 email accounts. I don't
wonder how long it went on. Like, was that, they did that in a month? They're like, here's 5,000 email addresses, and they got caught a month later? Or was this like happened 3 years ago and they finally got around to doing an audit?
Yeah, the story from Hacker News says it's not clear when the breach occurred or when the employee began offering unauthorized access. So, I mean, it may have taken a little while for them to catch on. I mean, maybe the person got greedy and tripped some alarms or some thresholds or something. It's like why is this being done this way, or some kind of process was put into place.
So it was a sysadmin, and they said Yandex will be making changes to administrative access procedures. I guess least privilege comes to mind, right?
Right.
So that's a big one. Making sure that your employees have access to only the things they need to have access to do their job. This could be part of that.
That's only one of 3 people with that right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yandex. So Yandex is a big company. 3 people. I mean,
yep.
Maybe they were just maybe they're just auditing people that had crazy amount of rights.
Right. Yeah, they were doing it. So, I mean, okay. So what's the impetus for giving people access to inboxes? I don't know enough about Yandex to know if it's like, is this like a Gmail or a publicly free access site? Were these 4,800 inboxes or email boxes specific people? Was it a targeted thing? Like, say, hey, we want access to inboxes from people in large multinational corporations, or is it just, here's 4,800 random people that we're going to give you access to? It seems like it would make more sense if those were a more targeted attack for specific companies or specific organizations.
Shouldn't their emails, though, be encrypted on the systems themselves? I'm not sure where they got access to look inside the emails.
So that was my thought too. Like, all right, so obviously but I'm assuming they didn't just be like, oh, here's the password that we keep unencrypted.
Right.
Feel free to log in. There had to have been some other like admin-ish access that you can get on the back end that they got.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean,
Who knows how
maybe
Yandex is built though?
I wondered if they could have issued a email password reset or something like that. It said, we've contacted the mailbox owners to alert them about the breach, and they've been informed to need to change their account passwords. This is one reason I put MFA on my Gmail account. I've had it for about, I don't know, 15 years now. And I'm like, if I know that, Gmail probably has the ability to turn off MFA on my account if they really wanted to, but
You would
yeah,
hope.
well, I would hope it would be noisy and I would get something from Google being alerted to the fact that, hey, your password's changed, or, if you didn't do this, maybe you should go in and check. The Hacker News article did say this isn't the first time this has happened. There have been, who was that? They said there was somebody where is the damn article? Okay, there it is. 24 months in prison from a former Cisco engineer for deleting 16,000 WebEx accounts without authorization. That's a whole nother big thing. It's like, well, what was his impetus their impetus to do that? Is it just to disrupt operations from people? I mean, that's $2.5 million right there lost, including
Seems
$1
like
million
even an
in
admin
refunds.
though, with godlike access, shouldn't be able to read emails. I mean, it seems like there is probably some sort of an application flaw here.
Right. Well, it's all architected, right? And no telling how long Yandex has been around, but email is man, I don't know.
I mean, I feel like there's some pretty with Exchange you can.
Right.
Oh, that's true.
Right? Like you're in Exchange, you can read it. I mean, that's just a flag.
Right.
Read anyone's email inbox.
Well, there may be compelling reasons to have that kind of access, like e-discovery or warrants or something like that. It's like, hey, this email account is being used to send phishing emails. We need to gather information from that account. Here's the letter, or if it's in Russia, it's like, we're just going to take it because we're Russia.
Right.
But I mean, I would imagine that there has to be some kind of backdoor to be able to read those things. But there should be controls in place, right? Like Mr. Betcher said, like you said, Ms. Berlin, that, those things, it needs to be noisy. And it's good that there was an audit from the third party security, group there that, found that. And, but yeah.
But company email should be able to be read by the company, right? Because I work for a company, they should be able to read the emails that go through their company systems, because I am an extension of them, right? But these are customer emails, though. There's a difference there.
Yeah. I mean,
morally, like when Apple, when the government tells Apple, hey, we need to break into this phone, Apple gives them the finger, right? This is our customer. You have nothing to do with them. We're not going to unlock this phone.
Well, Apple has gotten better at, I think, helping organizations do that.
Yeah.
So politically correct, Brian.
Yes. And I know that there's companies like Cellbrite that supposedly have the ability to do so, but
and I mean it's what Dutch and Russian. So I mean, really the only thing us saying that is just coming from an American legal aspect / moral compass thing, right? Like if it's I guess it doesn't really matter if it's legal where you're at.
Yeah. And, Mr. Betcher, your point about, people should, companies should be able to look at people's email. I don't know how it is with a lot of organizations, but there are people that use their work email like their personal email address. And I mean, we get Slack invites and I'm like, maybe you shouldn't be using your work email to log into this. And I was like, if you leave the company and you can't get your passwords, you can't get back into our Slack. And I mean, that's just one minor way of doing this. But I mean, how many people use their work emails as like their personal stuff? One thing I've tried to tell people for years is you've got to separate your work and your personal. You should not be mixing them in that respect. Because it's too easy to, you don't know what the EDR at that company's doing to log stuff. You don't know, what they're able to look at. I mean, something innocuous like, email may be one thing, but having, logging in and buying stuff on Amazon or, whatever, there's a bunch of stuff that can be monitored from the work email that maybe you don't want them to know about. And you need to have that separate, yeah. I mean, we've gone a little bit far afield, but yeah,
I think if, every email I send, I feel as though if this got out and everyone in the entire company were to read it, I'd be fine.
Right.
You got to treat it that way because it's not your email. It belongs to whatever company you work for.
That's true.
But private email, that's different.
Right. Yeah. I think it's that blurry line there where people don't remember that, you consent to monitoring even if you don't consent to monitoring. And when I took the 504 class with Sands there, the GDPR has rules about, you can't, log people without their consent or anything. And it's like, yeah, if they say no, you're still logging them because you get web logs, you get firewall logs, you get all that stuff. So you end up logging people even if they don't want you to log them or take note of their activities, you're going to get their activities one way or another. And I think we saw that last week with Ronnie talking about malware and he said he can track a packet from the firewall to the switch to the end user. That's another timeline where you can find that stuff. So, I mean, if you can correlate those logs, you can correlate all the activity that's being done from that host, whether or not it's a service or a website or what have you. So, yeah. I wonder what they're going to do to the 4800. They said they just asked everybody to reset their passwords, but I wonder if they did that for everybody, not just Yandex. Because they say they're really specific, 4,887 mailboxes. So that's a fairly specific number.
It is.
It's weird. So, yeah. Cool. Anything else we want to talk about with that one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Insider threats, I think probably the last frontier for real security. I mean, we can block everything coming from the outside, but as long as you still have people who can be coerced or bought or bribed or, don't like their company and they want to, do something about it, it's always going to be the final frontier, and it's going to be the hardest to defend against, I think. Cool. All right. Let me see the threat post article. Supply chain hack breaches 35 companies. I think so. Forgive me. The title sounds a bit clickbaity. Am I wrong in this assessment? The full title is Supply Chain Hack Breaches 35 Companies, including PayPal, Microsoft, and Apple. And an ethical hacker developed a way to inject malicious code into open source developer tools to exploit dependencies in organizations' internal apps.
It is a little bit. You kind of think that these companies actually got breached,
right?
But no, it was a white hat hacker, right? Who did this? So.
Right. So the ethical hacker demonstrated a novel supply chain attack, and we've talked quite a bit about supply chain attacks last year, breached the systems of more than 35 technology players, including Microsoft, Apple, PayPal, Shopify, Netflix, Tesla, and Uber by exploiting public open source developer tools. Yeah. So, I mean, we've talked about this quite a bit, where everybody builds their products using open source tool chains, dependencies, packages, NPM, Node.js, Angular, Python packages, pip, any PHP packages, anything that you can grab off of a GitHub that's open source and licensed permissively enough. Elk Stack, for instance, we talked about that in the last few weeks. are used by these companies potentially to, do their jobs and do their organization, work with their organizations. And this person, Alex Biersan, has been able to inject malicious code into common tools.
Well, he did it by knowing some of the internal package names. He didn't just submit code to the public area. He was able to get the names of some packages that they had customized at PayPal, right? So then he created packages publicly with those same names. So instead of updating the internal package, it went and updated that same package in the public that was newer. So then it just grabbed that package, right? And that's how he did it.
Yeah, it's very much like it's a similar, like I mentioned it, like a domain like typo squatting or something. Right. Okay. He said there's apparently this was part of a bug bounty. The researcher received 130,000 in bug bounties and pre-approved financial arrangements with targeted organizations, all agreed to be tested. The hack's original target, PayPal, as well as Apple and Canada's Shopify, contributed 30,000 to that amount. Okay. This affects Python, Ruby, and Java. So but I would imagine it would work for anything. Talking about that. So
yeah, if you go and grab public packages, right, and you have some that are internal or customized and you don't make them public, then you're vulnerable to this as long as someone knows those private package names.
Right.
So if you have a private package name, would you want to do something to block the ability for those ever being updated from a public package with the same name? And how would you do that?
I don't know how you do that, but yes.
Could you just like make a public one with the same name? It's just like, don't use this one. Like,
maybe.
I don't know.
There may be a reason why they made it private. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Right. So it says the code, which was meant for internal PayPal use, had a package.json file, had in its package.json file a mix of public and private dependencies, including public packages from NPM as well as non-public package names. So there's an OPSEC issue there. Somebody posted an internal package apparently to GitHub. That's what it sounds like. If you work for PayPal, I apologize if that's not necessarily the case, but that's what that post has written on the site. This private package had public dependencies, which he was able to, he says, what happens if malicious code is uploaded to NPM under these names? So as we've talked about with, was it Doug Baldwin? No, Doug Baldwin's a football player. Adam Baldwin, no relation. Definitely no relation.
Are you sure? Oh.
Yeah. Fairly certain Doug and Adam Baldwin are not any relation. But there's like 8 or 9 different ways that you can refer to a package source in NPM. There are several ways, from a static link in a GitHub to something called blah. You could look up package blah, and or you could look up package this URL from NPM. So it said, what happens if it's uploaded under these names? So so it looks like it phones home from each computer they were installed on, and the code would notify him if it's installed on any PayPal server. So he created a package, collects basic information about each machine, then to strike a balance, he logged the usernames and passwords. So it sounds like,
I just feel like an OPSEC leak of the name of a package should have more ability to have some kind of security around it other than oops. Like
here's how he found it. It says it's common for package.json files, which contains the names of JavaScript project dependencies, to become embedded into public script files during the build process, exposing internal package names. So there was a mistake made, which made this dependency list public, and that's
great.
How he got it.
So this is akin to uploading a password to your GitHub repo or something like that, or an API key. Uploading your build dependencies is not a good thing either in this case. So, So If you work with a heavily Node or Python or Ruby or Java, maybe you want to go back through and make sure that people aren't publishing internal dependency names. Classify those internal dependency names or packages as something that needs to be removed by whatever system it is you use. I don't know if Sync or any of those other ones would flag that kind of thing.
I don't know.
Of course, I think it would matter if you had a specific naming scheme. It would seem like your internal packages might need some kind of specific naming scheme so that you could look for that if you had,
I bet you could do some kind of infrastructure, and this is probably just because I don't do it enough, where you use ACLs to be like, oh, nothing can pull down packages except our internal package management server. And then kind of like when WSUS, right? Like you don't pull your updates from the internet, you pull them from our approved WSUS server.
Yeah, you name your package names a credit card number so that your DLP will catch it. Right?
Yes.
Great.
Yes. Oh man, we could blow the whole company around that.
Great.
Yeah. Okay, I need everybody's corporate card, please.
Nice.
I'm trying to make an update.
That's fantastic. But the other thing is if you're somebody published those up to a GitHub that they shouldn't have been putting it up there, so there should have been some QC there, or somebody should have thought about that. And maybe that was something that it was only after is Alex yes yeah.
And I can just think like after that comes to fruition, like this gets released, right? I just can't even imagine the process changes or whatever that would have to go through a company that large.
Yeah. And all these large companies are now going to have to go through and look at their GitHubs and their public repositories to make sure, and scrub their public repositories to see if there's any internal packages or anything like that. And, to be fair, it probably wouldn't hurt for them to be doing that anyway, because I bet they'll find some passwords or some API keys or something else that they didn't realize they had. I mean, there's now going to be bots scrubbing, whole repos looking for potential, typo squatting type errors that they can do on this. So
yeah, package names that don't exist publicly, just Google search it, right?
Right. Yeah. And, that might, if that's a link to an internal public or internal private repo, there might be additional server names or something like that in there that could be used to gain additional, OSINT on an organization, knowing server names and such. Once you've gotten inside an organization, you'll know exactly where their packages are, so you could poison their internal package repos. There's a bunch of stuff you could do with that kind of information. So looks like the 24th of February, they're going to maybe discuss. No, that's the different thing. So ThreatPost always has webinars at the bottom of it talking about 15 cybersecurity gaffes SMBs make. So there may be some more that they're going to discuss on this, because it sounds like they're going to have some experts talking about that on the 24th of February at 2 p.m. Eastern. So you can go check that out. So it's funny. So the last story from SC Media, kind of building upon this, is Google pitches security standards for critical open source projects. So, they said Google proposed base security standards for critical packages last week, recognizing open source code accounts for a tremendous amount of modern software. Still unclear how exactly to define a critical package. So Mr. Betcher, what would you consider to be a critical open source package?
Oh, hell. Node.js, maybe?
Okay. Ms. Berlin?
No, I don't know.
Wow. Gripping opinion.
I'm not a programmer, man. I don't know.
I was thinking.
I don't really know what's open source and what's not.
How about JSON?
Sure.
I was thinking OpenSSL. That would be a critical one, I would think, because
I wasn't thinking of that.
No, it's okay. But I was thinking about that because when I was reading this this link actually came from our Slack. One of our Slackers had posted it up to our news of the day, and the first thing I thought of was, well, nothing that open source communities like better than a big soulless corporation telling them what to do. But other people were like, oh, that may be actually a good thing, and I was like, but. So they said OpenSSL was one of the ones that came up with, because there were a lot of vulnerabilities in OpenSSL. And a few years ago, they had actually, I think somebody had posted that, oh, we're inundated with things and we've got so many issues with OpenSSL, we actually need dedicated people. And they started the OpenSSL Foundation. They finally started getting like all of these organizations like the Googles, like the Microsofts of the world, donating money so they could actually get dedicated assets to help shore up some of the issues that they had, including things like code audits and what have you. The critical open source packages. Let's see what, there's a link in the article here. So they said, we want to propose a framework, no prevent fix, for how the industry can think about vulnerabilities in open source and concrete areas to address first, including consensus on metadata and identity standards, increased transparency and review for critical software. For software is critical to review. For software that is critical to security, we need to agree on developmental processes that ensure sufficient review, avoid unilateral changes, and transparency lead to well-defined, verifiable official versions. Okay, well, I guess that kind of makes sense. They want to know that the open source software is being looked at, it's being audited. You're not just throwing things up on the wall and hoping that it sticks. See, it says due to recent events, they keep there. What I love is, now I'm down three levels inside of a blog talking about, issues that they've seen with various things. Let's see. Trusted
and I also
cloud.
kind of like the cynic in me just thinks like Google has an entire section of their company that's dedicated to like working on this kind of stuff just for the tax breaks.
Well, they do have a whole department dedicated to finding O-Days. That would be Tavis Ormandy and the Zero Day Initiative folks.
Yeah. I don't know. That's for the great. Yeah, maybe it is. I mean, I guess that's for the greater good, but.
Well, I always wondered, what would you want to see worse? A tweet from Tavis talking about your product, or a knock from Krebs on your door? Which one would be worse?
I feel like
Tavis wants to work with you.
Yeah.
Krebs, I don't know. He's got to create a story, right?
That's true. Some would argue he's not really a journalist anymore so much, but I would say having Tavis telling you something's wrong with your stuff would be even worse, because it's like, that it's bad when that happens, and you've got to fix that immediately. Krebs, you may have a little wiggle room before it hits the fan, but yeah.
You'll be burning the midnight oil either way.
Right. So according to the identity and security blog, which I'm going to put this link in there, they're trying to shore up the supply chain ecosystem. So Google is trying to do what they can to help reduce the vulnerabilities that we just talked about over on the Microsoft side, by making sure that there's some certain guidelines. And I'm not a fanboy of Google. I'm not a fanboy, but I do believe that there is a real issue with supply chain, that that somebody's got to go, hey, we need to do something, and do something about it. So yeah, they specifically mentioned SolarWinds attack in this blog from cloud.google, which is in our show notes. But yeah, I mean, we see a lot of that. There we go. Okay, boink. There's a link. Cool. But yeah, so I think it's still in its infancy, Google pitching the security standards. But I do think we're going to start seeing more of this, especially as, SolarWinds is just the tip of the iceberg on a lot of this stuff, where, people don't really know what they're running under their hoods, and, grabbing something from GitHub and making it work in their environment because they don't want to build it themselves is often the easiest way to do it. So, Cool. Any other thoughts before we go? Because I do want to talk about the Vectr stuff. Ms. Berlin has been gracious enough to talk to us about the Vectr stuff. So has there been any other thoughts about Google trying to help shore up supply chain security?
Silence.
Cricket. Okay. So in talking this week about our show, one of the things that came up was this Vectr.io. Ms. Berlin, could you maybe enlighten us as to what Vectr.io does?
Sure. So if you go, and it's vectr.io, and if you go to their website, they talk about just believing in purple teams. So it's kind of like a purple team tool.
Okay.
They pull together in this snazzy little web app. They pull together the MITRE ATT&CK framework and Atomic Red Team.
Okay.
And some other stuff. And it's a really cool way to automate and see what you're covered against when it comes to detections.
Okay. So for those of us who've just found out about what Atomic Red Team is, what is that exactly? Is it automating attacking red team type payloads? Or is it?
Yeah, it's a bunch of scripts that you can run, right? Like PowerShell or WMI or whatever, that will trigger the same way that a red team attack would.
Okay. But it doesn't, it's an automated tool to do offensive attacks if you can't afford a red team or don't have a red team yourself.
Oh yeah, or like in between, right? When you're working on defensive stuff.
It's a low hanging fruit kind of thing, you think?
I don't know if I would consider it. I mean, I guess some of these would be low hanging fruit, right? Like we just implemented it and we're working on it in our lab, right? To kind of start tying all of the detections we have at work to MITRE in more of an automated fashion than what I was doing before. Now that I actually have a team and I'm not doing it like all by myself.
Right.
So like we're working on a bunch of sysmon stuff. So we have an entire section in here built to the Atomic Red Team and sysmon testing. So like there's like initial access is broken out, right? So all the different techniques that are in initial access. There's one in here, like, let's see here, enabling the guest account with RDP capability and admin privileges, right?
Okay.
You can just like click on launch this attack and it will launch the attack on the host that you give it, and it will generate the log, and it will show if it fires in sysmon, and then we can see if it was detected in Boomera.
Cool.
And
okay. And
like, there's now a green check mark, right? It's been completed, and if it's been detected or not, and history of those two.
Okay. And you can use the Atomic Red Team for potential IOCs or, things you may have found in your threat intel feeds or anything like that. You can program it to run certain attacks based on, threat feeds.
Right.
And then use your MITRE or use the Vectr thing to make a fancy, dashboard or what have you.
You can kind of just keep track of stuff.
Okay.
And it's free. Like I didn't know about it until so I hired two different people for my team, Brian and Bill, and Brian came from Michigan State. And he used it there, and I'm like, I really like this, because before it was all, because I knew what Atomic Red Team was, right? And I was using some of their scripts to run stuff, but I didn't realize that you could keep track of it so easily.
Okay. It looks like they just put out version 6.10 of Vectr, and some of the feature breakdowns says advanced reporting filters and GraphQL read-only API access. So there's some definite things that you can get from that. Vectr now supports GraphQL read-only API access. So there's So there's GraphQL. Oh, speaking of GraphQL, I found there's some sites out there where you can actually build deliberately vulnerable GraphQL systems. Yeah. So if you are a pen test company who's needing to do some training on GraphQL because you've got customers that are using it, or maybe you're a pen tester or a bug bounty hunter who is trying to up their game on bug bounties, there's a link in the show notes to that. I actually posted it in our Slack as well in our education section, but I'll definitely post that up on there. I think it comes from OWASP. I could be wrong, but I believe it come from OWASP.
Very cool.
A lot of great stuff. Yeah, damn vulnerable GraphQL application. So it's Kitploit, which is a phenomenal site. Kitploit had posted it up. So I go to that site a lot. I get it. I have an RSS feed, and they always have some cool tools that they always throw up on there for various things. Cool. Okay. Anything else? I think we've probably gone long. Weird. I didn't use my egg timer. Where the hell is my egg timer? Oh, no. Oh, what the hell? Oh, there it is. Found it. Mistakes were made. I will try to use it next time. So, cool. Anything else before we go? Anything we want to announce? Anything like that? Anything cool?
Yeah.
Miss Berlin's shaking head.
Vectr,
Yeah.
kind of like.
Oh,
What's that?
Is Vectr like Veridin?
What's Veridin?
I don't know.
How do you spell Veridin?
Never mind.
Veridin.
Verodin.
Verodin.
Also FireEye.
I
think they bought it.
Oh, look at that.
Veridin security implementation.
Probably just a free version. I'm assuming FireEye charges for it now. Or Mandiant.
Yeah, probably.
Full disclosure, I own FireEye stock. Sorry. Felt like I needed to say that. So yeah, I don't know what the feature set between Veridin and Vectr, or what the differences are there, the deltas, but feel free to go check both of them out. If somebody knows anything about Veridin and want to try Vectr and see what's up, let us know. We'd love to give an update for that. So
yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, Miss Berlin, you were saying something?
Oh, yeah. So Jeremy and I are going to be giving training through Wild West Hacking Fest in April. So 4 days, 16 hours, and $4.95.
Okay.
Our detect and defense tabletop stuff.
Okay. And that's through the Wild West Hacking Fest organization. Okay. Cause I was about to ask, would it be possible for BreakSec listeners to get any kind of, discount or anything like that? Maybe I'll talk to Strand and find out.
Also offer it ourselves at some point. So possibly.
Okay.
But if your company wants to pay $4.95, I will not say no.
Well, if your company pays for it, it's $8,000 per seat.
No, that's it. That's at Black Hat.
Yeah, that's right. That's the government rate for Black Hat. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So we're doing that, which is super cool. Working on another yet to be determined book-ish project with somebody else.
Very cool.
And a million other things. Those are the only thing I can think of that I can talk about.
You're the busiest person I know.
Possibly.
I thought I was busy, but I can't hold the candle to you.
I started scheduling hour blocks of stuff in my evenings now after my kids go to sleep.
Good God.
Because before I was just like YOLOing it and freaking out. And now I actually have we will practice violin on Mondays, and we will do yoga on Fridays, and we will do Minecraft on this day.
Oh, that's cool. Well, those are things that you should definitely prioritize, violin and Minecraft, because it's good stuff with the kids,
Yep.
So,
Yep.
Very cool. So Miss Berlin, you are an extremely busy person. How would people get a hold of you if they, hey, come do your training at our conference, or, come and do a workshop at our place or something like that?
Yeah. So at InfoSister on Twitter. INFOSYSTIR.
Okay.
As I yell at my children again. If you've not been able to hear them in the background already.
You can mark that off your bingo cards. Okay. Info sister, INFOSYSTIR. Cool. All right. Mr. Betcher, how about you?
Yeah, on Twitter at Betcherpwned, BOETTCHERPWNED.
And your LogMD stuff is going well then, yes, sir?
Yeah.
You don't have any external dependencies or anything like that?
No external dependencies. Sorry. Although we do have some open source in there. PECiv.
Okay.
So
all right.
We have permission from the author of PECiv to embed it in the old LogMD binary. So
that's nice.
That's going well.
That's cool.
Okay, cool. All right. Yeah. So as we talked before, we've got a Slack. A lot of folks are joining us from Slack, all walks of life, all parts of security. Got a few people from the OSINT summit that SANS put out. It was a 12 hours of training, 2 days worth with a lot of great speakers. I actually thought that OSINT was, just one really small part of security, but there is so much to be involved with that. I mean, I heard talks about, e-discovery. There were talks about, scraping content, people talking about what they had done to, up their OSINT game after the insurrection on January the 6th there in DC, helping to hunt up people who had, attacked the Capitol, all the different kinds of techniques and things. And it did get contentious at times. The Slack did have to ban a few people because of some political comments and attacks, but it was a great discussion. I think everybody learned a lot. And there was a mega link, I think, put up for Google Docs on different sites and different ways that you can actually up your OSINT game, talking about, Ms. Berlin mentioned image searches, but if you look in some of those pictures, you see flags with different things that can help you understand, the different organizations involved. And it wasn't just that, it was about a bunch of different things. So I think I'll put a link in the show notes to that mega doc if you want to grab some of those links. Somebody had done the OSINT thing and scraped all the Slack channels for all of the content and the links for that. So there was a couple of hundred links, I think, to various news articles or to various tools that they were creating. And it's good to see SANS actually giving away some free content, because I was actually able to get my GCIH credits for that and re-up it without having to pay $8,000 for another class. So it was really nice to see. I hope they do something for web applications soon so that I can get my GWAP certified as well. But keep your ears out. You don't have to be a SANS. You don't have to hold a SANS cert to go to those things. You can sign up if you'd like. I think it just requires a SANS account. There's a lot of great content there. Really sad to hear that Tour Camp canceled this year's conference in May that they have on Orcas Island up here in the Pacific Northwest. But I'm hoping against hope that InfoSec Campout will actually have some kind of outdoor component by the end of August. So we have not officially canceled it. We are going to probably have a virtual component. Ms. Berlin's one of the officers. Mr. Bretcher's actually one of the officers as well of the IEF, and we're still trying to, hope that we'll be able to at least have some kind of limited outdoor event there where people can, maintain their distance and what have you. We're hoping that the vaccines will, be flowing freely and everybody will be able to get them by the end of August. So keep an eye out for InfoSec Campout on Twitter, our Twitter handle there. And you can join us. The Slack, if you want to join the Slack, you can DM our Twitter Breaksec, BRAKESEC, or you can send an email to bds.podcast@gmail.com. Thanks to all of our Patreon supporters. They help us every week make sure that we can still use our Zoom, pay for our Libsyn hosting, and time and effort of getting the podcast out. And their support is very positive, and it makes me feel good knowing that there are people out there who see value in our content. And the podcast will always be free, but it does take some time and effort to get this stuff out. I mean, I'm still learning how to use Reaper, which is a digital audio workstation, instead of using Audacity. So that takes a little time and effort. So I'm hoping that everybody enjoys that. And I thank everybody for their support. TPub, we have a TPub store. If you go to breaksec.com/store, you can go get t-shirts, stickers, mugs, masks. They have some really nice masks. I sent some to a couple of people, like Little Lost. She's got some stuff coming. Our previous guest, Ronnie, I sent some stuff to him too, because he's, he did such a great job for us, and I hope we have him back soon talking about logging and blue team stuff. And so I sent him some items that he'll get next week. I think he got the stickers, and they look really nice. So anything we missed, anything we forgot, anything I need to mention? Patreon, people, store, Slack. Nope. I think that's it. Okay. All right. Well, if we did forget anything, shout out to our moderators on Slack: Scott, Megan, Amanda, Brian, Mr. Betcher, of course, Director of InfoSec, Dave Sybuck, Paige, all of them that help out with keeping the Slack awesome and under control. So just know, if you join our Slack, it's moderated, has a social contract. We expect professional behavior. We don't like banning people. We don't ban people, because all the people there know to be nice and maintain their behavior. So that's another thing. All right, cool. All right, that's it for this week on Breaking Down Security. Be kind to one another, be safe, stay warm. Try not to get too cold or strain any muscles out there while you're shoveling snow. If you're shoveling snow, it's something that can happen. Take care of yourselves, because you're the only you have. And we'll talk to you again soon. Bye.
Bye.